We are running a little late, so not a little, we are running late. I'd like to invite Mr. Shiva Subramaniam now to deliver his closing talk. Just an announcement, the gist that was to be presented by the domain conveners about the interactive workshops this morning will be conveyed to you all by mail because we would like to end on time. Shiva.
Presentation, you have it.
Yeah, I have it right.
The ideas, making ideas happen. Don't do it yet, I'll tell you. Okay. Yeah, hi. I think Gayatri already introduced me the other day, so I'm not sure whether I need to introduce myself, but if you don't mind someone introducing themselves twice, then I don't mind introducing myself. My name is Shiva. Now I work at IIT Madras as the Chief Innovation Officer of the Gopal Krishnan Deshpande Center. I also teach non-engineering subjects at IIT Madras. I teach a subject called life skills. I teach discovering creativity and one more interesting subject to help the campus person become a corporate person. So that's what I do. I'm not an engineer. I started my life in the Taj Coromandel. I was a receptionist in the Taj. And most of the lessons I have learned in my life, I have learned there. And I would urge each one of you, if you ever have the chance to work in a hotel, at least for 1 month. It's an industry that doesn't forgive you. It's an industry that you need to think on your feet for 24 hours a day. I used to be what is called a night receptionist, standing behind the counter. The first 1 week, I learned how not to sleep at night, because it's very difficult not to sleep at night. And then I learned a lot of things. I learned how to smile, because when people scream at you, and lots of people scream at you in a 5-star hotel, they think because they are in a 5-star hotel, they must scream. Otherwise, they don't scream. It's the 5-star atmosphere that makes them scream. So I learned a lot of lessons. One of the best lessons I learned. And then I also went to the Taj because I failed in my BCom. It's not very easy to fail in BCom. Difficult job. I failed not once, twice, I failed thrice. I still remember the second time I failed in my BCom, I had to go to a tutorial college. And in the tutorial college, there was ragging at that time, and I was ragged. So I went in front of this huge guy. He said, "How many times have you failed?" I said, "Once." He says, "Shameless fellow. This guy has failed 5 times, right?" Then I understood. And I tell you, I'm saying this in all humility, because I understand now that failing is not a great thing. I need not have failed in BCom. Need not have. It's such a simple subject. But sometimes in life, you just want to fail for the heck of it, right? So therefore, that was that. And then I finished my, somehow I got through my BCom. I still remember I got banking, special accounts and cost accounts. I got 18, 19, and 20. The second time I got 19, 20, 21. The third time, actually, I knew I would get less, but I think the University of Madras said, let this guy go. So I got 35, 36, 37. Then I did my law. I did my law because I always wanted to be a lawyer. I always thought I was good enough to be a lawyer. And I passed law. I passed law. And I did quite well, actually. And I was practicing as a lawyer for about 10 years. Practicing, like I said the other day, constitutional law and matrimonial law. So if you have any doubts on the Constitution of India, right? Matrimonial, I don't know why people don't ask me doubts on the matrimonial law. Seriously, why? Why is it that we don't have doubts? I'm sure half the crowd here is married or not. Both of you need counsel. Both of you. We need to know what we are getting into, or we need to know what we have got into. Jokes apart, I think matrimonial law is a fantastic law in the country. Because you know what? It helps a woman understand that there is a way out. That's, I think, a powerful message from a law point of view. So that was that, and then several things happened, and I couldn't continue practice. I'll come to that later. And then I joined TCS. I was with TCS for about 20 years of my life. In TCS, the first day I went to TCS, my manager looked at me and he said, he looked at a person called Thomas, my colleague. He said, "I think we'll make Shiva do overseas deputation." I thought I'm going abroad. But it turned out that people who went abroad had to write a document and on which I had to take their signatures. So from that, for about 2 years of my life, I was taking signatures on papers for people who are going abroad. And you know what? Even not signatures. I was told, take signatures here, here, and here. So a guy comes in, he says, "I'm going abroad." He says, "Where's your document?" "Here it is." "Okay, sign here, here, and here." So for 2 years I did that, but I hated every moment of it. And then somehow, I think we always find the best way to survive or not. And I started getting into training. I did all the usual training, presentation skills and team building skills and all that. And then TCS wanted to get into creativity as an important, initiative. So I got into creative thinking. And of course, I haven't really regretted much in my life. I do, but that's what it is. So that's a very short introduction, I'm sorry. But that's what it is. I don't know why I have been asked to make the concluding remark. Seriously, because when Gayatri called me last week and she said, and then Professor Mahajani met me about 3 days ago, he said, "Shiva, concluding remark." And today when I heard Alka is one of the cleverest person on campus, I'm seriously, somebody, we had a meeting this morning and somebody said, "Alka is the cleverest person on campus." So
you should find out from that person if they know any other person on this campus.
yeah, but then what, Professor Mahajani, Gayatri, Alka, what am I doing here? Seriously, I don't know. Anyway, since I have been asked to, speak, I have about, 25 minutes more, right? Yeah. So, I'm sorry?
You can take more time.
No. Thank you. I knew you would say that. That's why I said 25 minutes. So I have 25 minutes. I'm going to, and I have got several messages. Every time Professor Mahajani meets me, he says, "Shiva, this is what you must do." Gayatri calls me and said, "This is what you must do." So I have 2 messages from both of them, right? And I'm going to try and fulfill both these messages. And Gayatri has said, if I don't make a good speech, at the end of the speech, if I don't make a speech, he'll say, "Bye, Shiva," and leave. If I make a good speech, he'll come and shake my hand. So we're all waiting. So I'm going to, and I know what they wanted me to speak about. They said 2 things. One is what I do right now at IIT Madras. That's what Professor Mahajani said. And Gayatri told me that I need to speak to the young people in the audience, try and inspire them to fulfill the purpose of their life. So I have a nice task ahead of me, and therefore we'll divide it into 3 parts. One is the work I'm doing at IIT Madras. The second is, what could be important to fulfill one's life. And of course, the third is interaction from all of you, every one of you here, try and find out how we can be that person that we've always wanted to be. Right? That's the structure of the presentation. Incubate. I'm not going to pitch the program. I'm not pitching the program. It's simply that I just want to introduce the program to you because many of the teams that spoke to you now are going through that program. Professor Mahajani's team, for instance, is going through that program, 2 others. But I'm not going to spend too much time on that. There's always time. You can always write to me. That's not the purpose of the presentation. It's more to introduce you to a new concept of discovering customers, customer discovery, right? So therefore, the title of the presentation, and this was done about a week ago, so there are a lot of iterations, new things. And after I heard about Alka today, I should not have done what I did. Anyway, so Making Ideas Happen, that title is very fancy. There's a lovely book, of course, called Making Ideas Happen. Brilliant book on how to take innovation from concept to final. So what we do is, next one. So we do this thing called lab to market, where our focus is on customer discovery. So faculty and students come as a team of 5 or 6. 5 or 6 is important, I'll tell you why. They come to us with an idea and they say, we want to take it to a market. The principle is that faculty have right now 2 roles, a role to teach and a role to do research. Can we offer them a 3rd role, which is to be an entrepreneur, which is to look at entrepreneurship, not be an entrepreneur, but look at entrepreneurship, number 1. The second principle is lots and lots of ideas happen in the lab. plenty of ideas, faculty working on ideas for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. Now, can that be translated into an innovation, into a product, process, whatever? So that's the principle. The principle is to take from the lab and into the market. In order to do that, there are several ways. I'm sure many of you here, which is why, for me, it's very humbling to speak here, because what we are asking, what we are really talking about is just one of those tools. It's not the prescribed tool. And I think that's very important for me to remember when I'm speaking to illustrious people like all of you. So therefore, the first thing we do is, I'm just going to quickly go through the process. Like I said, I don't want to bore you with the details, but the principles of the whole thing is the next. We start with the business model canvas. The business model canvas has 9 building blocks. You don't have to learn all of that now, but what you must remember are the 2 building blocks, which is the customer segment, asking yourself, who is the customer? So you have the idea and you say, who is the customer? And the other building block is value proposition. What is the benefit? What is the need that you're satisfying? So you start with the business model canvas, which gives you a top view of what your idea is about, what your market is about. Now, and I'm simply going to rush through the 2 or 3 things that I learned, and that surprised me, that has completely knocked me away, because when I learned this the first time, the person who was teaching us said, business model canvas. And then he wrote a very important word on each of those building blocks. And he wrote the word hypothesis. He said, everything on the block is a hypothesis. Who you think your customer is a hypothesis. What value you give to him is a hypothesis. What relationship you're building with the customer is hypothesis. What activities you're doing is hypothesis. Hypothesis. You're only guessing. You're only guessing. And once you believe that you're only guessing, you put those guesses on the business model canvas. And there's a huge surprise, shock lesson for me. Right? I was always thinking that I'd assumed who the customer was. And now that I'm guessing who the customer is, what do I do next? I test my guess. I validate my hypothesis. How do I validate my hypothesis? I go to the next step, which is get out of the building is what Steve Blank says. Get out of the building, actually physically get out of the building and meet 100 customers. 100. 100 is a tough word for 8 weeks, just an 8-week program. Meet 100 customers. Not because 100 customers ought to be met, but simply because 100 customers is a reasonable number to meet in order to validate your hypothesis. Many teams we've got about 27 teams with us right now. Many of them have discovered their customer at the end of the 80th and the 81st week. Right? So that's the reason. And many times at the end of 100 customers, you actually start to think that you may not have a business. For instance, in the present cohort that we're running in IIT Bombay, there are 2 teams which are telling us, I don't think we have a business at all, which is a good thing, because they have learned an important lesson. They don't have to waste investors' money, and they can move on to some other idea using the same principles. So therefore, the whole thing is about, can you fail quickly and fast? At the same time, try and validate hypothesis by meeting 100 customers. And then the third one is, so therefore, we use several tools. It's called the value proposition canvas, where on the one side of the value proposition is empathize with the customer, outline his pain, gain, and the product. Therefore, you ask yourself, you put yourself in the customer's shoes. All of you know the empathy rules very well. And then you find out what is the pain of the customer, what is the gain of the customer. But every one of those pains is a hypothesis. And then you go to the customer and say, excuse me, I'm doing this, I have this research project. You don't really talk about your idea because it'll bias the customer. And then you ask him questions like, for how long have you been on this? And then you try and find out if the pain that you think that the customer has, does he really have? And then once you have validated the pain and the gain, you come back and do the other side of the canvas, which is, what are the pain relievers that you're building, and what are the gain creators that you're building? Once your pain relievers and the gain creators and the gain match, you have what is called a problem solution fit. Now have the problem solution fit, you can go to the investor and say, I have a solution for which there is a problem, which is how it works, because you are the one who brought the solution out. The quest is there a problem to solve? Many times there may not be a problem to solve, and we assume that our solution has a problem that the solution can solve. At the end of that, you go to the investor and say, now that I have a problem solution fit, can you give me some money? So the program that we are running is an 8-week program which stops there. But then if many of you here are have a scholarly look at this whole thing, you may want to go to the next stage, which is the minimum viable product, and build a product, test the product with the customer, and go on and go on, right? I'm going to stop here simply because that's my brief, right? I don't want to go on and on, but that's what we are doing as by way of customer discovery. Yeah. So we do the empathy map and things like that. That's it. So if you want to know more, there is the business model canvas is authored by a person called Osterwalder, O-S-T-E-R, W-A-L-D-E-R, and Steve Blank is the author of the Get Out of the Building concept, and MVP is, of course, Eric Ries. So the three of them got together and started what is called the lean methodology in order to discover customers. So that's, yeah, I have satisfied your. So the next one, I know there could be questions, but I'm not sure whether we can take questions. I already saw, that there was not much time, but that's what it is. All right? Okay, so, and I'm available online. It will be wonderful to speak to you and answer your questions if you have any. So that's the thing. The next portion, the next part of my 30-minute, 10 minutes over, right? I got, what, 20 minutes more. Yeah. So 10 minutes is what do we do? It's about you, every one of you. I was fortunate to go through to be a judge for the poster competition. I tell you, I just couldn't believe that there could be so much talent. Seriously, I can be very flattering. I know I have that habit, but I'm not flattering you. I'm not flattering you at all. I think you people have something wonderful. I saw some great stuff. I remember on cervical cancer, right? Yeah, I saw great stuff. I saw the Jaggery. I was fortunate. I can only say I'm humbled for the second time today, looking at all that. So the question is, what do we do now? How do we not deviate from our focus of making that idea happen? Is something that all of us have to together think about. I don't have the answers. It would be stupid on my part to prescribe answers to how you can take that idea forward. But I know there's a lurking suspicion in your mind as to whether this is what it is right for you. Should you move away from cervical cancer to a regular job, right? That's a temptation all of us have. And I'm wondering whether that should be addressed as a problem to solve. Maybe it is. I don't know. But if you think, and all of us have doubts about this. Every one of us has doubts in our life. I really don't know how to solve that problem, even though Gayatri requested that I address that. I really don't know how. I really don't know how. If you have any ideas, let's think about it together. The question is, in the limited life that we have, which is a given, right? I'm 62. I'll probably not be here 10 years from now. I don't imagine I will be here 10 years from now, which means I just have 8 years more, which is 8 into 360, 2,400 days. You don't look so somber. It's a good thing, right? It's a good thing. And each of you can start to quickly calculate how much time you have. Just divided by 365, not too much. So the question is, what do we do in that time? How do we make that idea happen? Is something that we should think about. Anyone? For me, in my life, I can only think of one thing. And maybe I can quickly talk about that and then move on to inviting suggestions from you. But the question still remains, how do we make that idea happen? Because those are fantastic ideas, impactful ideas. You have to work on them. You can't give up. More than that, how do you maintain the entrepreneurial mindset for the rest of your life? till that last half an hour of your life when you don't have any regrets, especially the regret of not having done something that you really, really wanted to do. So, I don't know the answers yet, but one of the answers could be mentoring, right? I think mentoring could be a powerful answer. Can you look for mentors in your life who could help you with that? I remember in TCS, one of the tasks I had was to look at mentoring for TCS. I and Mr. Kohli, who the famous man, the two of us worked on mentoring. Of course, we made a lot of mistakes. We failed in our mentoring effort. But mentoring can be a powerful tool for helping people think about their lives. And it could be several people in your life. For instance, I still remember when I had to leave law. I didn't want to leave law. I was a good lawyer. I thought I would be a judge. All the 4 or 5 friends who practice law with me are judges in the High Court and the Supreme Court. I really thought I would be a Supreme Court judge. And then suddenly my father retired. And I had to, get into a job. And I joined TCS. I was earning 500 rupees as a lawyer. And TCS offered me 5,000 rupees, 10 times more. My mother was crying, saying, why don't you take up the job? And I'm telling myself now, I'm saying if at that point in time, if somebody had told me, Shiva, don't be stupid. How much money do you need? 2,000 bucks a month? Take this. Be with it I'll give you 2,000 for every month for the next 10 years. I would have been a great lawyer. Because I did not look for a mentor at that time. And I think at the crossroads of your life, it's very important for you to look at a mentor before you make major decisions like not wanting to be an entrepreneur. You need to look for a mentor. But at the same time, I have had, for instance, I used to teach French in a school. I've done too many things in my life, I think. Of course, it was needless to add, it was a nice school with, with only women there. And so I was teaching French. And I got this call about 1 year ago. And she said, sir, you taught us French. I said, yes. I said, who are you? She said, my name is Asha. I said, oh, Asha. I said, oh, I remember. She said, sir, can I tell you something? I said, what? She said, you used to come to our school with your gown in your hand, a lawyer's gown in your hand. And at that time, I decided I would be a lawyer. And after that, I did my law, and I became a lawyer. And next week, I'm going to be a judge of the Madras High Court. I cried because here you are, who always wanted to be a judge, but without your knowledge, there is this person who looks at you, who simply looks at you and says, I want to be a lawyer, becomes a lawyer, and becomes a judge. You can go through the records, P.T. Asha, judge of the Madras High Court. So what are we learning? We are learning on the one hand, someone who lacked mentoring, and therefore regrets for the rest of his life, and someone else who has a who chooses a mentor out of her mind, right? I never did anything. It was just a role model that she built for herself. And she is a judge today, and a woman judge at that, which is incredible. So what are we talking about? So therefore, mentoring seems to be an answer for most of our, I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but so that's the story that I wanted to relate to you from how to be the person that you want to be. I'm now going to leave it open to all of you to find out. I'm sure the Tata, the committee would be very happy to hear what you have to say, because I think this whole exercise is about asking ourselves, what do we do as a collective people to see to it that every one of you in this room spends the last half an hour of your life not regretting that you didn't do what you always wanted to do. If we can go to that, then the entire picture emerges. And we're talking about entrepreneurship, of course, not about the person you're in love with and things like that. Not those regrets. That's for later. Of course, that's a big regret, of course. I have a lot of regrets there. Yes, I need feedback. I need to know what we can do. So give each other advice, give each other suggestions, because I think otherwise, yeah. Yes, go ahead. The question is, how do we not move away from entrepreneurship? Right, Professor Mahajani? Is that what it is? The question is, Gayatri? How do we not move away from entrepreneurship? Alka? Because great ideas. You can't deny that you're all good people, excellent, exceptionally gifted, and how are you going to, for instance, make your dream of an alternate way to detect cervical cancer be one of the best products in the world? I'm waiting. Yes.
At the moment, you see, for a very long time in the medical sciences, we have been learning about anatomy, physiology, microbiology, pathology, gynec, obstetrics, community medicine, and various other aspects of medical sciences altogether. But there is an area that is considered geriatrics.
Yeah.
And the subject is gerontology, which is age-related issues. And they have been indicating that a man can easily live a life of 1,000 years. But by 2030, they are likely to be maturing that particular technology. And by that time, if you are likely to be alive, which I am sure you will be certainly alive, probably I shall recommend it to that particular committee that they should try to make experiments on persons like you. This is the first thing. And you see,
I'm sorry, can I request one thing, please? You said one suggestion, right?
Yes.
Can I ask some more people for more suggestions?
Oh,
if you don't
sure,
mind?
sure,
Yeah.
sure.
So anyone else, please? Thank you. You understand, right? Because, yeah.
So if you don't mind, to very quickly touch upon the conversation we had earlier at the posters, do you really think we can keep entrepreneurship completely separate from social? Because I think that was your advice to my team, that don't worry too much about the social affect. Instead, just focus on people who are already interested in the sort of services you have to offer.
Yeah,
Whereas I would think that to actually increase awareness would increase the market for our products.
Okay, but I'm sorry. This is actually the question that you have does not fit into to what we are discussing right now. But I think the answer to your question is it is not separating social thinking from entrepreneurship. I simply said the lady in question who said she would rather die than be tested for cervical cancer is not your customer. That's what I said. So, yeah. Yes.
Thank you, Shiva. I think the point of mentoring was fantastic. I just wanted to add one thing from my personal experience, and I think I am sort of in the same boat as many of the students themselves, right? Plus minus 10 years. What I also found very helpful in addition to mentoring was being surrounded by a peer group that thought the same thing. So mentor is someone you aspire towards, you learn from their experiences, and then you have this peer group who also acts like a coach to keep questioning you. And that's where the second aspect, which you sort of alluded to, comes, which is working on the mind, right? And I think we learn a lot of skills through our education system, but we don't consciously learn how to develop resilience internally within ourselves, how to develop that willpower to keep going after our dream.
Very good.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Soumya. Yes. So therefore, mentoring, Soumya is saying coaching, Soumya is saying peer community learnings, and can we all become one large community where we can encourage, talk to, and be with each other? Very good, yes.
And a team which works together. Because nowadays, yeah, there were days where a single person drove the whole group or something, but nowadays it's so multifaceted and other things. A team always helps. So build up a team. You know that. Right?
Yes. Mic. Somebody is making notes? This lady.
I think one way to really determine kind of the chaff from the grain, the idea versus reality would be to actually go and work and spend time interning, whether it's interning with, may not be an exactly identical idea, because then, it may not exist, but something close and similar to that, because that will clarify the 360-degree view, because there is a lot of, if I may use the word romance, but there could be also the flip side, which can come with it. Because when you are a creator, you can't really walk away from the byproducts of that creation. So the question at the end of the day is that, do I want the glory with all the other trappings and all the other responsibilities? Do I really want that for the personal side? So in my last half an hour, I don't regret that I spent all my time at work, and the other side of me wanted something else. So I think that trade-off between between what is the reality versus what it may seem like can get clarified by actually working, getting your hands dirty, and I think to a large extent even failing, because that's when you see the facets which may not come through in a sort of a controlled environment.
Very good. Thank you. Yes. We're talking about the last half an hour.
What about surrounding environment or societal support or need?
Okay.
Usually come pressure from that side also to have luxurious monthly salary kind of situation, and moving from there to the entrepreneur completely, where risk, failure chance and all are involved.
Yeah. Okay. You want to say what you had in mind, Gayatri? Because, no? Okay. You want to say something, Alka? Anyone else? See, I think if just to clarify, like I said, for almost 25 years of my life I was working in TCS, and now it was a tough decision to take when 2008 I had to be on my own. I didn't have too much money, but then I sort of made the decision to be on my own. I still remember when I wrote my resignation letter, I went to my person I was reporting to. I actually wrote my letter saying, if I don't find a job outside, I will come back to TCS. And I made him circle that, and he said, okay. Luckily I haven't gone back. I had about 6 lakhs when I left. I knew that I had to spend 50,000 every month, which meant that if I don't earn 50,000 for 3 months, then I'm in trouble. And I left in 2008. I haven't really looked back. I've not made too much money, but I haven't looked back. So I think the question that all of us are going through is, where does entrepreneurship come in our life if it's not going to give us livelihood? I think that's what we are grappling with. But the point I think we must remember is that each one of you in this room, with the posters and the prototypes and everything, the very fact that you're working at the Tata, you're fellows of the Tata Center, the very fact, can you imagine the number of people outside who are not doing what you did? So can you look at yourself as gifts with all the presentations you made? Can you not forget, please, can you not forget that you have a special gift, which is to look for an idea, look for a problem, and look for a solution. That gift, not too many people in this world have. And the request to you is, can you not, two negatives positive, right? Okay, can you not forget that gift? That is the request. That is what I think Gayatri and Professor Mahajani had in mind. Can you not forget the gift that you have? How do we remember, how do we retain the gifts that we have? The gift that all of you have is the gift of ideating, the gift of looking at a problem, the gift of empathizing, and the gift of looking for a solution. The question that you ask yourself is, are you going to waste that gift away simply because you don't believe in yourself? That's all we're asking. We don't have the answers now. We don't have the answers now, but we must seek the answers. I think today is a day of reckoning in a way, where when we step out of this room, we say, we have learned a new thing about ourselves. We have learned that each one of us has a gift. And if we can remember that, I think we are on the right track. I think you will find your mentor, you will find your community, you will find your coach, you will find everything. Many times we forget the gift that we have. We forget that we have special gifts that not too many people have. So I'm going to stop because it's now almost in time. But I'm going to stop with a story that is something that, can you just do the last one, please? The last slide. No, next. I'm not doing all that. No, next. Yeah. Next. This one. I'm going to stop with this person. Anyone can guess? Can we ask for a better story to end these two beautiful days than the story of Ramanujan? Born in Kumbakonam, 4 years old, started to understand that he loved maths, kept on practicing maths all the time, failed in every subject in school. Every subject in school he failed. There is this beautiful book called The Man Who Knew Infinity by Robert Carnegie. You will cry when you read it. I know nothing about maths. The last maths I did was 11th standard in Pune University, St. Xavier's School, where we didn't even learn anything except addition and subtraction, right? But I read that book. If one of you is very nice to me, I'll give you that book. Seriously, one of the best books I've read in my life. So, born in Kumbakonam, keeps on writing maths all the time, fails in all the subjects in school, somehow passes, comes to Madras, goes to a college called Pachepa's College, where he enrolls himself into a Bachelor of Arts course, but he cannot forget his maths, keeps writing maths all the time, starts to create what is called the Ramanujan notebooks. And at the end of Pachepa's College, gets a job because he has to get a job. He goes and works as a clerk in the Port Trust in Madras. I think he gets about 10 pounds a year or something. And he keeps on working. He never loses that. And that's what I think one of the lessons we learn. Even if you don't want to be an entrepreneur, even if you can't be an entrepreneur now, can you persist in your entrepreneurship? Can you persist? Even if you are working in as dreary a job as in the Port Trust, can you still be an entrepreneur in your mind? Right? So Ramanujan doesn't stop doing maths. I think that after about 2 years, he learns about someone in England, and you know who it is, right? Who? Hardy. He learns there's this great mathematician in England called Hardy, and you won't believe it. If you go to Robert Carnegie's book, I think page number 357 or something, he writes a letter to Hardy. Please read that letter. I wish I had brought that letter with me. I can post it to all of you. And he writes this. He says, "Dear Mr. Hardy, my name is Ramanujan, and I am a clerk in the Port Trust in Madras. But I have been working on certain formulae for a long time, and I think I'm right. You know, we always imagine bravery to be something that a soldier has. But if a mathematician can be brave, I think this is bravery. Because for an Indian mathematician in 1912 India, just go back in your mind to 1912 India. What was it? It was the British. And if a British was passing by, you had to sort of bend low like that before he passed by. Otherwise, you could probably get killed. Remember Jallianwala Bagh. And at that point in time, for someone to write a letter to one of the biggest English mathematicians and tell him that I am right, required bravery. It also required conviction and belief in himself, because he posted the entire letters. He posted it, no email, nothing. He just posted it by ship. It would go and reach England in 3 months' time. And he waited and waited and waited. And when Hardy receives these books, he looks at the books, he says, some mad fellow from India has written it, and he gives it away to his assistant called Littlewood, and he says, look at what this is. So Littlewood goes and can't stop reading. He can't stop reading. He keeps reading. At the end of 2 days, he comes running into Mr. Hardy's room and says, Mr. Hardy, I think we have found a genius. Then Hardy looks at the notebooks and says, this man we want in England. And he sends a person to India to get Ramanujan. But Ramanujan came from a very conventional background. His mother told him that it would be a sin to cross the seas. And therefore, she didn't allow him to go to England. And then, of course, the story is that she goes and visits a temple where the goddess comes and tells her, better send your son to England. You can't disobey the goddesses in this country. So therefore, she says, okay, go to England. And Ramanujan comes to England. He stays in England for 5 years. There's a cultural aspect to Ramanujan, not listening to Hardy. He doesn't listen to Hardy because he comes from a conventional family. He doesn't want to eat eggs, and he doesn't want to sleep on the bed, and he sleeps on the mattress. And England is very cold for him, and he contracts tuberculosis and comes back to India. And comes back to India when he's 31 years old and dies at the age of 32. What do we learn? We learn that man, just like every one of you, knew his gift. And he knew how to nurture his gift. And he needed a Hardy to nurture that gift. And I think we're all looking at Ramanujans here, every one of you. You can't let opportunities which reflect the poster and the prototype that you made today go away. So the decision is yours. I hope you make the right decisions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Shiva. I'm sure that was really motivating to all of you, Tata Fellows, especially. This was meant to be a special message to you all, so I hope it did reach somewhere.